All right, welcome live listeners to Slamfire Radio. We're going to switch things up a little bit today. For our live stream, we're going to be doing our main interview first, and then we're going to be going on with the rest of the show. And welcome to Slamfire Radio, Othais from C&Rsenal. Welcome to the show, Othais.
Howdy.
So tell maybe for some of our listeners who aren't on YouTube very often or just haven't seen, you know what? They have seen your stuff. They just don't know that it's your stuff. Tell us a little bit about C&Rsenal.
So C&Rsenal started, oh Lord, it's probably been 6-7 years ago that I really started doing sort of article writing and photography. And at that time, I started partnering. I'm kind of a talker, so I started working with local museums and stuff, borrowing from collectors and that sort of thing. And sort of stage one was sort of getting into this assembly line style where I would do photographs and do the research and build up books. After a while, I realized that I was reaching sort of the top of being able to communicate with people that way. And so I moved over to video. And from there, we actually, right as we were planning to go over to video, we got a message from what is a YouTube series known as The Great War. And they were looking for licensing images for use because we were doing such good firearms photography from the era.
Yeah, you guys have those ones with the pure white background that are like
yes,
parts, exploded parts.
Are you? Yeah, it's weird, but we're sort of identified for the style, but realistically, our style is just textbook, art house kind of white background, very clean, neutral appearance, very minimalist design.
So, are you the one that Filthy steals all the posters from?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I noticed that there's some
your work is hanging on my wall.
I got an email that said, "Do I want to be on this podcast?" So, like, imagine my surprise when I do some Google foo, and the first video I click on, I just click midway through it just to see. And somebody sitting in an all-wood paneled room with one of my posters that very clearly has some text that was not available on one of my prints. So,
That must have been the one that said Trevor's part list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I was building a Garand. So the guy who hooked me up with the Garand receiver also hooked me up with a fancy poster that I could just check the parts off as I went.
I may also have some pirated artwork on the wall.
Okay, well, just let me know where to send the cease and desist.
To the Empire.
Wait, I have to cease having it on my wall? No,
I don't care. Individual stuff has never bothered me. There's some poor sucker on Reddit that, like, his girlfriend had apparently downloaded and printed one of my posters. And so he went on Reddit and was just like, yeah, look what my girlfriend got me. It's this beautiful poster. And everybody's like, oh, sweet. She ordered one of Othais' posters. And he's going, who, what? And they're like, did she buy it from him? And I was like, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, oh, this hasn't gone to print yet. So this is very clearly something that somebody just downloaded. And so all hell broke loose. And I was like, guys, it's not that big of a deal. Now the resellers, I've had to chase about 4 people off of eBay and stuff like that, though, because they'll just walk with them and start reprinting them. And I'm like, no. You can't make a business out of stealing my stuff. Like, if you just want to print something off, I'm not going to be mad. But
yeah, that's dirty.
Come on, man.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not paying for anything from Filthy, so no, I got all my stuff for free. So it's all good.
Even the stuff Filthy doesn't steal isn't worth paying for.
In fairness, the stuff that I put out there, I think max resolution is like, I mean, I do pretty heavy resolution, but it's like 1500, 2000 pixels or something like that. If you order from our print shop, you can get like a 24x36, and then like the pixel resolution on a single rifle is something like, I think it's like 8,000 pixels wide. That's being put in that, so the resolution is fantastic. And then we actually have our printer is not out of China or anything like that. It's no sort of big deal. It's actually a single man who runs his own business in Texas and is a Second Amendment kind of guy. So when you buy a print from our little shop, you support the show, and then the margin that we pay to him to get it produced, he just turns around and buys ammo with it anyway. So you're really just feeding back into the hobby if you do anything from our shop. So it's in your own best interest. So to be clear, the stuff that we've gotten from Filthy is like not even second rate crap. It's just awful. Oh, okay. Don't worry, the sunlight will kill it eventually. This guy, archival prints, like this is the guy. You want this guy. So Filthy, you need to step up your game. You need to order some stuff to give to me.
Feel better stuff, Phil.
Yeah. Or pay the man, Phil. Come on, pay the man.
Or send him some posters as a thank you, like you do everyone else.
Oh my god. No, but I constantly have like authors and things like that, and these are guys that I occasionally know, and I'm always like, did you want to ask me to borrow that? So, no, it's just it's the nature of it. It's actually kind of why I moved to video, because I would have spent more time chasing my own copyright than just producing content that would flock people towards what we were doing. So it's better just put on a good show. If something's, if it's egregious, obviously just go knock it out. But I tend not to go chasing it down as hard as all that.
Cool. So you're mentioning that you started getting to the video. So tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Great War wanted licensed images. I said that we were about to do video anyway. So we actually made an agreement with them to go into World War I, which is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life, because I basically promised to go through World War I gun by gun. And at the time, I had much more background in World War II. And so I'm thinking, okay, World War I know what the basis of all these are. This will probably be like maybe 100 firearms. It's a lot more than that, number one. And then number two, as we started producing the show, I think it was like a 20-minute to half-hour format at first. People wanted more and more and more detail. And the more detail we put in, the more viewers we got. So now we're averaging easily, 45 minutes to an hour and a half on most videos. And we're dropping those we're dropping them full documentary style every other week. So I don't know that this has ever been done. And somebody pointed out to me that Tales of the Gun had 40 episodes at maybe 45 minutes each. And now we're at 75 episodes, and we quite regularly beat an hour on them now. So we're sort of surpassing where Tales of the Gun was at, which is just wild to think about just from a little YouTube production.
Yeah, that was with The Great War is Nidell? Is that the guy?
Yes, Indy Nidell.
Oh, man. Oh, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, for those who don't know, that's an ambitious project that's actually going to be wrapping up this year, where they were doing World War I week by week, and they would retell the story of what happened in World War I 100 years beforehand. And so that was a beautiful format. So we came in as weapons experts. And so I'll go in with a big pile of stuff from a country and sort of talk about their weapons and how they were used, and then I'll just get out of their hair. But that cross promotion gave us a chance to sort of get an instant audience, which was actually really important, because this is an extremely expensive and complicated show to produce. But we've been doing all right. We have a big patron community. We just hit 100,000 subscribers. I think our average viewer will, if we put out just the worst, most unpopular gun, we'll still get about 24,000 views. So
sweet.
It's solid. Like, it's not we don't have a lot of up and down. It's a very consistent audience.
Yeah. So, I mean, like when I review a gun, I'll usually shoot a video for about an hour and then edit for about a half an hour and then post it out. Is your experience about the same?
Yeah, just exactly that. No, we have a small but growing team. We actually have our own animator full time now. That was a big thing for us once we hit those Patreon goals. That's the first thing I did, because the animation was actually killing me. If you watch the old series, there's 2D animations that I was cranking out, and I think it's like 20 hours a pop for those. That was on top of everything else I was doing. But nowadays, it's kind of hard to track down the hours per show, because there's a lot of overhead, because we're working from a fixed diminishing list. So as we get to the end of this, I have to find rarer and weirder guns. Like, I think we did the Pedersen, device, which was a secret gun. There's maybe 5 in existence, and we managed to get a hold of one and actually run it out to the range and test it and work with it. The overhead on that episode was insane, because we had to go to like Louisiana and back, and then we had to repair it and all sorts of things. So your average episode can take anywhere from like 200 man hours to like 600 man hours, depending. The Mosin episode, especially, we were talking about this before we got on here, but the translation effort on it just kind of went off the rails, even with 2 native Russian speakers, and it bogged down. And I think I probably had like 150 hours just in the translation and sort of interpretation of the information for the Mosin. So it's odd, because everybody has a Mosin, but you don't think about the fact that there really is not a lot in English language that goes into where it came from and why. I mean, people know it showed up in 1891 and the Russians made it, but they don't understand why. Like, I think coming through that episode, one of the things that stuck out is a lot of people sort of I never realized that they have vertical locking lugs and almost nothing else does. Like, you're so used to seeing them, but almost every other bolt action from that era has horizontal locking lugs for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you from locking up on the ammo. But the Mosin's like, no, we want vertical lugs. Well, how are we going to get around? We got to add this rail. Okay, well, now that we have the rail, what are we going to do with it? And so it's like, it's this weird design decision. And luckily, this man out of Russia now has, Chumak has put together a book that is like, he's gone through every Arsenal document and he found out why they did everything. It's a little insane, but there was a reason, and we just had to get it all into one format so people knew why the gun is the way it is.
Yeah, you guys have some, like, for people who haven't seen your videos are extremely in depth. You guys dive in on our particular firearm or series of firearms, and yeah, that Mosin one was really interesting. You guys talked about a short one on there, a carbine that I don't think I've seen before. I can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah, that's the 1907. It's probably, if anybody's watching the video now, it's in that back corner. There's a lent to us by a big collector named John Cleary, wonderful friend and potential body double for myself. But yeah, it's those things are hen's teeth, and I was very glad to borrow one and put it out on the range. So it's just one of those things that was present for the war, and then for whatever reason suffered major attrition afterwards. I still haven't found out why. I mean, there's 300-something thousand made, and then they've just sort of vanished. I can't imagine what program they got sucked into that really wiped them out, or what country they were given to as aid. But every once in a while, you find weird little things. It's like people want me to do the Fedorov Avtomat, the Russian, automatic, 6.5 super rifle from World War I. Very few made, and then almost all of them vanished after the war. And someone sent me a video that they found where it was a Russian documentary in the 1930s, and it was talking about some native, their version of Inuit culture. And there's hunting seals or whatever, and one of the guys is sitting there just plugging away with a Fedorov Avtomat is what he's got on his shoulder. And so I'm going, well, there's where one of them went, off into the Arctic. You're just amazed at where this stuff ends up going. I mean, sometimes it's just like, well, it stopped working, so we gave it to, indigenous whatever. It tends to be the case with the French automatic rifles, the RSCs. They were given away. They just broke the gas system and turned them into terrible straight pull rifles and gave them to indigenous peoples, and that's why they're so hard to find. Because once it broke down, they just handed it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could make parts for it, but why when you have the next generation or the next great thing, right?
Or no, actually, the weird thing is a lot of times they went back to garbage. They would just be like, the semi-automatic rifle is just too expensive. We have millions of these bolt actions, and ultimately we just threw millions of men at the problem. So why bother having one guy fire a whole bunch of rounds if it's going to cost us more money? Like, at some level in this war, like World War I and on into the interwar period, there's almost this like devaluing of the human life, and then by the time the human life becomes valuable, it's like, well, we already have all this crap laying around, we're going to make more of it, we'll just use what we got. So World War II is going to be interesting because it's like they finally get off their butts and start inventing new guns after they sort of ignored it for 2 decades. So
well, and then with the Russians going back to the Mosin afterwards, that was that's really interesting. I mean, if you've owned a Mosin or an SVT-40 and you've taken it apart, you can kind of like sympathize with them a little bit, trying to do that out in the snow and the cold, trying to clean all the corrosive salts off that thing afterwards, right?
I mean, it's sometimes idiot proof is what counts, and the biggest hurdle for every gun design, it's like automatic pistols when they came out. It's the revolver was at the end of its life, like the end of its development curve. The swing out cylinder, double action, smooth pull, ultimate reliability of it. Like on into the 80s, people say the revolver is more reliable than the semi-automatic pistol. It's just said that way. And part of it is ammunition reliability, and then part of it is also the revolver had made it through 100 years of development and was sort of settled. And then the pistol is like 10 years old and it's up against the revolver. And then you get into World War I and semi-automatic pistols are, I mean, the good ones are maybe like 20 years old. And we're talking Borchardt style C93, C96s have only been around for 20 years. It's not enough time to get through all the problems and also to let the patents expire to start using the best ideas. And so that's the argument that you run into all the time. Semi-automatic rifles don't really start kicking until the 30s. Like, not really. And then as they're developing them in the 30s, they run into patent problems. They run into the fact that it's a new technology, an emergent technology. It's not tested. And so you just get in these cycles where you're like, well, obviously semi-automatic rifles are garbage. It's like, no, you're competing against a 70-year-old product. Like, it's development cycle.
Yeah, and they got to try a couple of different design philosophies and operating actions before they find the one that's like the one to go with or the two to go with.
Well, it's interesting. Firearms development is intelligent design meets natural selection. It's you try to design it intelligently, and then something kicks off, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, and then the better designs sort of come out of the ashes. And so it's just a combination of two types of evolution.
Yeah, hopefully. And then throw some government bidding processes on top.
Oh yeah, well, government bidding is why you have something like government decisions are why something like a Mosin manages to stay in service for 100 years, despite the fact that it wasn't good compared to its contemporaries the day it came out. So there's always the oddball sort of. There's also, I should say, it would be comparable in the sort of natural world to sexual selection, which is that you can have natural selection, which is survivability, but you can also just have the appeal for like something about this is more appealing, and we just bred it like crazy for no discernible reason. So
kind of like the L85, the English rifle there. we had Ian on to talk about that one, and that was interesting as well.
There's always something, like there's always personality. You can never remove the human element from history.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about some of the milsurps that maybe shouldn't have been around, but what's your favorite milsurp or the one that you think was maybe ahead of its time?
Yeah, there's a number of guns like that. One of the worst guns of World War I was actually very smart in design. The Ross rifle used an interrupted screw style bolt head. Used a nice smooth straight pull action. As we know, that's going to be important when you get into gas operated systems because you need to be able to rotate that. But you need to be able to cam a bolt over with a linear push rod. And so there's a lot of really good designs in a Ross rifle. And it also was supposed to be, you know, a flat shooting, high powered cartridge. It's just that it got converted over to 303. The problem is common sense stuff like how to set up the chamber to be sort of workable with loose ammo tolerances and things like this is bizarre. This will blow your mind from our Mosin episode. The Achilles heel of the Ross rifle, the thing that really drove it apart was the fact that the bolt stop halted on the rear of the left locking lug and would damage the locking lug. So it's a straight pull action. It sticks because the ammo is out of spec. You kick it open. When you kick it open, you deform the bolt. You push the bolt back forward. Now it's even worse. And the more you kick it open, the worse you make it. The Russians, with the terrible Mosin, one of their things was you absolutely cannot use the locking lugs to stop the bolt because it'll deform the locking lugs. So in 1891, the Russians knew what the Canadians had not discovered in like 1910. It's just weird little handoffs like that you sort of go, oh, geez. I mean, just you get killed by these little lessons that were learned and not shared. So which is another reason why I like going into history. But I wouldn't say the Ross is my favorite. It's just one of those things that you see this sort of like vision of the future, and then it crashes and burns on some very simple problems. And then you also see some much older guns like the Lee Enfield that outperform the Ross rifle, much older design. It's Remington Lee rear locking, you know, and it has all sorts of problems with keeping in headspace and stretching the, you know, barrel mounted sights and all that other stuff. But it outperforms the Ross because the simple truths are there. It can accommodate the loose ammo tolerances, and it just works. It's not perfect, but it works. So I think the one thing that I've learned from World War I is that utility beats vision over and over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. Like between the Lee Enfield and the Ross, I mean, you'd think the Ross would be faster to run, and it is if you've got a nice smooth one. I've got one that's a little bit like older and kind of cruddy, and it's not as fast as the Lee. I'd rather run the Lee than the Ross if I had to shoot like a action shooting match or something like that.
Yeah, it's weird where execution and theory just don't always match up. Yeah. And some of it's just, I mean, even little stuff like the bolt handle where it deposits your hand. Like the Ross does not put it by the trigger, the Lee does. So there's just little things that sort of get brought into focus that you would not think of on the designing board. But I don't know. In terms of stuff that works, I think any of the Mauser designs, like the derivative Mausers, tend to work very well. So like Springfield 1903, Gewehr 98, a lot of the, honestly, some of my favorite guns in World War I are the export Mausers that you don't talk about a lot. So like Mauser 1912s that were seized by Austria-Hungary and things like that. They have flat tangent sights, full hand guards, and a Mauser 98 action. It's a very easy, robust system to go with. Personally, I think if I had to actually lay up and do some fighting with a bolt action, I'd probably pick something more along the lines of a 1917, where I've got a rear aperture sight, very clear sight picture, very, you know, semi-pistol grip stock, you know, that sort of thing would probably be the ergonomics that I want. But realistically, anything in those strong families will do really well.
And something without a rimmed cartridge.
Yes, I'm not a fan of rim cartridges the more we get in the series. And I know everybody says that this action or that action has gotten around rim lock or rim jam, and it still is a consistent problem until you see guns that are built specifically for it. So like a Lee Enfield Mark III does a pretty good job. Like I have not seen rim lock on a Mark III. And as part of our series, we actually did some work with like a Mark I and an old charger loading conversion and things like that. And some of them had, most Mark IIIs have what's called a Mark V magazine. It's been improved. All the angles are set just right to get that thing to feed the rimmed ammo. And then you have a rear chamfer on the ammo that helps with things. And they feed very well. If you have like a Mark IV or Mark III or Mark II magazine, it doesn't go as well. And I think a lot of people are used to the fact that even when they get the older rifles, they've had the magazine upgrade. So our current perspective is the Lee Enfield feeds rimmed ammo just fine. It's like, yeah, after 1909 it did, like 1909, 1910. But before that, it's kind of like, and people go, no, it's fine, it was fine, it was always fine. And I go, well, then why did they go through 4 previous versions of the magazine? They just changed it for no reason. They were just bored. They wanted to waste government money. Like, there's a reason that they make these adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah, to handle the design flaw from the other design thing that they did, and then that was to handle another design flaw.
I appreciate how much people love the Lee. I know you guys up in Canada have a long history with it. It is a very much ad hoc rifle, and people don't like to think of it that way. But if you watch, we have an episode that goes through. We have 2 episodes that go through their development, and if you watch, they start with the Remington Lee, and they start tacking stuff on. And they don't stop until like realistically, during the war, they were still modifying the gun. Not you're down to whether or not it has windage knobs, but like they're still making changes. And if you stop and take a break and turn off your love of the Lee Enfield for one moment and look at it, it looks like a much older rifle with a bunch of stuff stuck on it. You have all these protectors and weird sights, and then a clip bridge that's sort of welded over the top. Like It's all stuff that if you stop and look, it wasn't there to begin with. It's all been added one by one. Like they've just been tacking things on. And so you see them try to consolidate all that when they get to the number 4 rifle. Like the number 4 rifle is the ultimate expression of everything they tried to fix with the number 1/Mark III, whatever you want to call it. So it would have been a Mark III back in the day, and then they later converted it over to number 1 Mark III. But the number 4, beautiful rifle, because they just went back and they solved all their little issues that had been nagging them for several decades.
Osias, can I ask you a World War II rifle question?
Probably.
I'm always wondering why the SVT-40 didn't catch on and wasn't more popular and didn't like completely replace Mosins. Was it just bad timing, finances? Was it a problem with the design? I mean, when I pick one up, I actually think it's a better design than the Garand. I mean, it's magazine fed. It doesn't have that crazy op rod. I mean, it seems like a good design, but built by communists.
No, the SVT-40 is a strong action. It's also sort of a shelf locker, I guess I would call it, and that's a beautiful system. You see that in a lot of other guns. I would agree that I think, actually, I was just having a conversation. I think the SVT-40 is probably superior to the Garand in a lot of ways, but as far as why it didn't catch on with the Soviets, it's mostly just because they were trying to meet production goals. They knew how to crank out the Mosin, and so they cranked out the Mosin. Like they didn't want to halt that. They still, to my knowledge, tried to crank out the SVT, but I just don't think when you have more men than you have arms, you just struggle to get whatever arms you can. I mean, they had the same problem in World War I. There were all these ideas around the Fedorov Optimat, but there was no way they're going to expend that much money to make a single rifle. And so there's just too much resource demand coming from a new rifle. I mean, if you imagine, let's say the SVT was as easy to make as the Mosin. Let's say it used the same number of parts and the same machining operations. Let's say it was all the same. Or even better, maybe it was easier to make than the Mosin in theory. The problem is putting it into practice. Like you can tool up one assembly line, but then when you go to tool up a second, or let's say, God forbid, you halt a Mosin assembly line in order to put one up, the number of Mosins you make a day is in the thousands. You're going to give up thousands of rifles for several days to then tool up to make hundreds of this gun, and then hopefully thousands later. You've just materially lost so many rifles of opportunity. I believe that is probably the problem you're going to see with a lot of those technologies that emerge in a war zone. So, like, if it had been just available and sitting around in the 20s, and then it saw full production by 1929, 1930, then you would see it completely replace another gun. But realistically, tool up is way more expensive than you would think. And by example of that, you can see how, like in our most recent episode, we talked about Remington trying to produce the Mosin, and how just because of inspectors and things like that, it bogged down to the point that they only produced like 500,000 of them in the same time that Westinghouse managed 1 million. And so opportunity cost of 500,000 on Remington's part, it's not something that you want to give up to roll out a new technology. But in deference to the SVT-40, to my knowledge, the SVT was the inspiration for the Germans to fix their own automatic weapons. So like the failure that was the Gewehr 41s, you get the Gewehr 43 after they sort of take a look at the SVT and sort of finally realize that they could take some technology from the Russians and sort of, swallow their pride and go, okay, this works a lot better. We should definitely adopt features of this into our own rifle program. So there is that. And then you also see a lot of technologies that use that sort of shelf locking system, and a lot of those sort of gas piston systems going out, whether they're based on it or not. It's hard to say. They usually have lineages that come from somewhere else, but at least the SVT shows, yes, you can take it into battle, and yes, this is a war usable rifle. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of the SVT-40 had a lot of really cool stuff in it done at scale. That piston that they've got on there is very similar to what we see on like an AR-180B even today.
Yep.
That bolt locking system, that tilting bolt that you see on there, is used on the SKS. I mean, they took a lot of that technology. It's so complicated. Like there's so many little things on those SVTs that those poor guys would have had to manufacture. Everything from like the magazine release, it's got a little toggle. It can either go down and it's a magazine release, or you can like flip it up and it locks up now and it stays out of the way. It's like, it's so thoughtful, but it probably took someone like time to make that dang thing.
Yeah, I mean, again though, you look at like World War I semi-autos, like I'm so used to seeing now, and the SVT looks downright simple. It's just, economies of scale are so interesting when it comes to wartime. Like it's really wild how much you give up if you even take away 2 or 3 subject matter. Like if you take 2 or 3 engineers away from the assembly line just to help with another assembly line, you lose a lot of throughput. So it is crazy how many technologies were sort of like pushed under due to war, and then after the war, surplus means that those technologies still remain dormant, and it just takes decades for them to finally come to light.
Very cool. Sorry, I think I'm bogating your time here, Brian.
No, you're fine.
Did you guys have any time or any questions for him?
No, you guys are having a very interesting conversation that I'm enjoying listening to. So, all good.
Yeah, is there? I mean, I have the available time. Is there anything more personal? Because I feel like I'm beating you guys over the head with history. And like,
it's awesome.
I've got 100 hours of stuff on my channel that you guys can get bored by, on your own time. But
turning you loose was part of the plan.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Unless you guys have anything that's more curious about back end or anything like that.
No, I think this has been really interesting. How do people find you and take some time to plug your stuff?
Realistically, they don't, because we chose the worst name for anything ever. No one can spell it. You can't really say it out loud and have anybody pick up on it. So just don't bother. Well, you don't want to watch it. It's fun. It's actually interesting. We have the most indecipherable logo and name, but it's C&Rsenal, so Curo and Relic Senal, which nope. And basically, yeah, I've never found an easy way to communicate it verbally. Like audio only is the death of trying to find us, which is fine, because all you really need to do is go by YouTube and start looking around for some World War I guns. So look around for videos about the T-Gewehr or about the Lewis gun. And when you see the logo with the nice crisp white background, that's us. That's the easiest way. So get curious about World War I, look for the white background, you'll find us.
Awesome. And we'll definitely make sure to include a link to your show in our show notes here as well. So anyone who's listening on the podcast to this afterwards can find your YouTube channel as well. Is there anything else, any other place that they should find you?
No, we're Facebook and all that other stuff, but they still have to be able to spell. So I just overhauled our own website. So if you'd like legal prints, you can go by there. But also twice a year, we'll do a big push. So if you follow us on social media, in the summer, we tend to do a t-shirt run. And in the winter, we tend to do a print run, and we'll pick a poster and a couple t-shirts every year to sort of put out for people to enjoy. They're usually pretty tame. I really don't like going for edgy design. I usually just go for something simple and more classic looking that's not going to. I feel like people tie a lot of messages to gun ownership and gun history, and realistically, I just want people to be proud of the history and not have to really associate any sort of political structure to that. Like, the history can stand on its own 2 feet in my mind. So we tend to try to present stuff that way. So if you're shy about maybe coming off like a gun nut, I think we're probably a good station for a lot of people, since we do tend to keep the show neutral.
Yeah, your show's definitely neutral and very even keel. And you guys do some cool stuff like shoot the Mauser. Oh, what was the big anti-tank one that they had there?
That's the Tokarev.
Tokarev, yeah.
Yeah, that's 13.2 millimeter anti-material rifle, essentially.
Yeah, that was May that shot that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big project to get that done.
Was that reduced power ammo, or is that the regular power stuff?
The only problem with that, so I get that a lot, is everybody wants to, because Ian has shot one as well. So Ian actually borrowed his from another friend of ours, Michael Carrick, and we borrowed ours from another mutual friend of all ours named Jeff. And so Jeff provided some rounds that had been hand loads. So what we did is we pulled the bullets, dumped the powder, and reloaded them to what we found to be spec. The problem is we could only get milled brass bullets, essentially. Like, we couldn't work up a jacketed steel core round that was going to be balanced and perfect and yada. So what we did is we just went ahead and said, what can this do with brass? So we essentially fired brass rounds at 1.5 inch thick steel plate, and still cratered the steel plate with solid brass projectiles, not even steel, you know? And so the problem is, since they didn't punch through, and that's what people expect, but half the problem is the projectile, so since they didn't punch through, people are going, oh, these must be reduced power, or because May managed to stay standing, because what they really want to do is see some poor girl go ass over tea kettle. And Ian went out into the desert and shot a Tokarev as well, but they did it. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. It's like him in the middle of the desert with a bipod of some sort. Like, I still kind of make fun of him for this. Like, we've actually spoken about it. I was like, I don't know what you thought was going to happen with a flimsy bipod. He's like, there's not really anywhere to like bed the rifle. And I was like, yeah, well, we had and this was just already available at the facility, but we had a steel, like an iron angle welded table that was sunk 2 feet into the ground. We put 150 pounds of sandbags. Your cat wants out. We put 150 pounds of sandbags on top of that. And then we bedded the rifle into the sandbags, and the rifle has 1.5 inch deep spikes. And so we set up the rifle to be used the way it was supposed to be used, embedded. And then she pulled the trigger. So, I mean, that's a lot of material to offset that recoil.
Yeah.
And it's still,
it definitely looks like it worked.
It's still, I mean, it is a freight train. So we get that a lot on the light loads, but no, it's full load, light bullet, and then properly embedded. And so people will constantly compare it to Ian, going, well, just threw Ian over. And I'm like, Ian's standing up with a bipod thing, like sticks, like he's shooting it off a shooting stick. We're dug in with sandbags. Kind of different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ian's not exactly huge, so something knocking him over in recoil is not saying.
I mean, Ian knows how to take a shot. I wouldn't. I mean, stance is everything.
He shot more fully autos than we have.
Oh yeah, the other thing, he's not a big, bulky guy. Is what I mean.
No, I spoke to him too about that. Actually, it's just some background information. He was saying that the rounds they had, and this is curious because it happened to me as well. Our rounds, we fired each round once and nothing, light strikes. You had to hit the primer twice. So we would fire all of ours once, and then we'd load them and go, okay, this time they're going to go bang. And they did go bang every time. So once we had the light strike on each of them, we knew that we had them ready. For him, he said that his ammo was just like what they had available was just cooking off randomly, or maybe there'd be they'd have a little bit of a my brain just froze.
Hang
a little
fire?
bit of it. Yeah, thank you, hang fire. And so if you can imagine having not knowing for sure whether the 45-pound rifle with a anti-tank round coming out of it is going to go bang or not, and then if it doesn't go bang, you may have a hang fire. That's going to account for a lot of the shakiness that they were running into as well, because they just never knew if it was actually coming back on them or not.
Yeah, but that's a surprise break. I mean, that's exactly what you want.
I appreciate that. But
Osias, I have a random question before we let you go. This gun right here, the Tokarev Tt-33. whenever I see a review on an American's YouTube channel, almost always it has a safety installed on it that wasn't original to the factory.
Yeah.
What's with that? Because I mean, you can import guns.
It's just an importer thing. Like as they, it was an import requirement for the U.S. To have safeties applied at some point. I can't remember if it was part of the assault weapons ban
or is it a country specific thing? Because I mean, Glocks come in with those safeties.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it because I'm not that big on the lawyering. Right. Now, it could be that the Glock's automatic safety counts because they do have the trigger safety or whatever. So I'd have to go look into it because that's not really my field is the modern stuff. But I just know that a lot of those came in with applied safeties. The other thing is potentially you see all sorts of crazy stuff starting in the 70s, especially with firearms importation, where they start trying to add sporting features to them to make them marketable. Like some people wanted this kind of weird stuff, and sometimes they started the process going better safe than sorry for the market. I'd have to look into it. I'm not really that sure on the Tt-33s that came in later. The only ones I have are like Russian made, so they're all as war. My knowledge base falls off after about 1950.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So it's the ones, but so if I understand what you're saying, the ones made after 1950 are the ones that have the safeties?
It's not when they were made. It's to my knowledge,
when they were brought in.
The importers added them.
Okay.
So I get run into all sorts of weird importer issues here because like the Santa Fe company was sporterizing Carcanos like crazy. So I constantly have people going, what model Carcano is this? I'm like, it's a Santa Fe. Like I can just look at it and know that Santa Fe did the sporterization on it. So importers do weird stuff to try to fit into laws or to try to market. So I'd have to look it up specifically. I'm sure somebody out there screaming at their radio because they already know this factoid. But generally, since I fall off about 1950, I just haven't looked into that stuff.
Cool. Thanks.
It's all downhill after that anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of interesting stuff. It's just that people tend to be much more interested in it. So I've sort of moved into the areas where there's less data. I think things after 1940-ish are much better documented. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to sort of roll back and be like, I bet you guys never heard of this wacky doodad.
Or some of the stories that you've talked about.
That's fair.
Like those are really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, definitely thanks for taking the time to spend with us here, Matthias. It's been really interesting, and definitely for all our listeners, go check out C&Rsenal on YouTube. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And that's the YouTube goodbye.
Bye.
And then and then there's our real goodbye. Awesome. Okay. Let's head on up to the top. I forgot that he worked with the Great War. That's so cool. You guys have seen that YouTube series, right?
Yeah. Didn't have a clue this human being or his channel existed until like 5 minutes ago.
That's you've heard of the Great War though, right? With Andy Nidell.
I've heard of the YouTube project. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you guys are
long YouTube stuff. I just don't have time for because I can't do anything else while I'm watching. So I'm not allowed to watch TV by myself for an hour. Holy crap. That's not how things work around here.
Bedtime. That's when I get that stuff in.
Yeah.
Or actually, because I have no children, whenever the heck I feel like it.
See, I have children and
you chose children. I chose TV freedom.
Yeah, fair.
And money. I also chose to keep all my money.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Except for the 43% the government steals from my check every week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we start this gun show thing that we got here?
Feel bad for being a parent, Trevor. Sorry.
How you feel is really not a concern of mine.
That is, Trevor. That is the appropriate response.
Okay.
Well done, sir. Cheers to you.
Thanks.
All right. You guys ready to get on to the main show?
Yeah. All right. Let's do it. Come on. What are you waiting for? Just started already. You lead host or not? Like anytime.
Hi and welcome to Brian.
You've got
Brian.
Oh, I need finger guns. I need to see finger guns so I know we're starting. Just because he's the lead host, he doesn't feel the need to do finger guns. I'm confused.
Do finger guns. They're gonna be fully auto finger guns. They're gonna go bang, 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 bang.
Hello and welcome to Slamfire Radio. This is episode 254 for April 26th, 2018. I'm one of your hosts, Adriel Michaud.
I'm Brian.
I am Trevor.
Why?
I kind of wanted to say I am Groot there. It was really kind of just going anyway.
Yeah, Kelly hurt her back. She was chasing a puppy, so she's not able to make it on the show today.
Oh, really? I thought she was upset because the Leafs lost.
You can't be upset about the Leafs losing. You'd be upset. You'd be chronically depressed.
Well,
I know.
She is, but she was remembering when they won the cup the last time, because she was there. She saw it happen.
That was the she
might have been like what, high school, something like early high
goodness.
school, probably, right?
I was going to make a Bill Barilko joke, but that was way better. Because like they won the cup, and then he died, and then they didn't win another cup until they found him. So I'm like, what do we got to do? Dig him up, go hide him somewhere, find him again, so we can win another cup? Like,
yeah.
I also know why spring is late because the Leafs are still playing, so Mother Nature doesn't know what's going on. She's like, maybe can't be spring because the Leafs aren't on a golf course yet, so I better just keep the snow coming.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Why don't we get into what we did in guns? What we did in guns this week is brought to you by the Calgary Shooting Center, Canada's premier firearms retailer. You can get on their waitlist for the Glock 19X by emailing orders at theshootingcenter.com. Brian, did you want to start us off?
Sure. I went and I bought an MTM box today. There, that's it.
Woo.
Really exciting. I spent some money. No,
why'd you spring that on us?
No, crazy, eh? Just woo, big spender. No, I did some testing. I guess it was last weekend with the IBI barrel and just doing a ladder test for velocity, and found some flat spots in velocity that I want to use for further testing for grouping. So that'll happen in the next couple weeks, I'm hoping. Then I spent some time at the range after that with the 1022, just working on some offhand shooting, just trying to get that subconscious breakdown, that kind of deal. It's coming along. I have months until nationals, so that's good. I can keep working on this stuff and finally get where I want to be. I did a little bit of dry fire practice with the 320 last night. I got to do some more before the weekend because I've got a pistol clinic on Saturday up at Milcon, so I'll be spending the day working on pistol fundamentals. So I should work on some fundamentals here before I go do that. So other than that, that's MTM box. That's it.
Cool. Okay. Trevor, did you buy an MTM box today?
No, I bought two 1911s.
Like every other week.
Because you bought two, you win. Okay, but only because you bought two.
I started off, Adriel and I forgot to mention last week that Monday of last week we were on We Like Shooting, and we had a lot of fun. I added it to the show last week's show. You did, yep, you did. I'm not sure if some people just stop the show and don't listen to me. I know a lot of my podcasts, as soon as the outro starts, I just shut it off. Maybe. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's something that we did, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. There was whiskey, and no, you're allowed to swear. So yeah, there was whiskey and swearing. It was all good. In generous amounts of both. Generous amounts of both, yeah. Adriel, I knew there was going to be a snow day the next day. The forecast was calling for a severe freezing rain warning, and yeah, that's why I just cut loose on a Monday night like it was a Friday. And thank goodness, because I don't think I got out of bed until 11. Yeah. So, what else? Oh, the FNS from Adriel arrived. So for those listeners who are watching, here it is. And Adriel, I have a question for you about said pistol. Yep. You put grip tape on it, obviously. But did you also put something underneath the grip tape first to build it up? or
No.
is that just the regular stippling under there?
That's the regular stippling under there. So there's two grips. Did you see the other grip?
Yes.
In the,
Yeah,
in
but
the tape
that's
there?
the one I always ran. I always ran the arched.
No,
Yeah.
there's nothing underneath there. It's just grip tape.
It feels significantly larger than my other FNS without the grip tape. So I was wondering if you built up the panels with something first. Okay, cool. I'm undecided if I want to take it off or not. It feels too large, but at the same time, I'm really impressed with the texture and you know, you get your hand locked on there, it's not moving. So
Yeah,
I'm going to be adding some to the front. Oops, I'm going to be adding some to the front strap of one of my new, or two of my new 1911s that are coming. So yeah, so I decided that I would sell off the Norinco that I built. And we're going to talk about that in the Patreon episode. We're going to have a special Patreon episode later tonight called Lipstick on a Pig, where Adriel and I will discuss our experiences building Norinco or turning Norinco pistols into IPSC pistols or 3-gun pistols, what have you. Project was done. It was fine. The reason why I dumped it is it didn't fit inside the IPSC box. So because it didn't fit inside the IPSC box, I obviously couldn't use it as a backup pistol without doing more milling work to the slide. I'd have to remove the sight, weld the dovetail in again, and instead of a Novak cut a Bomar cut, which would be another $100, $150 plus $150 sight. It was just getting a little ridiculous. And I still needed to find a taller front sight. So I said the heck with it and sold some archery equipment so that I could pay for a 10 Foglio Witness in 1911. Now, unfortunately, the cost went up because the euro went up. So everything that we're buying out of Europe, it costs more than it did a year ago. So the 10 Foglio Witnesses are now over $1,000. They used to be under $1,000, and they were like the best sub $1,000 1911 you could get your hands on, but they weren't. I still, think that all 1911s except for the Norincos are overpriced for what you get. But the Tan Foglio was a fairly decent value for the money. I did get one last year for the prize table at SummerSlam, and it was a little rough. Like I wasn't overly impressed with it. Well, I'm happy to report that the quality has gone up with the price. The fit and finish is better, and the fit. There's hardly any rattle to it. It rattles less than a new Colt does, but certainly there's some Norincos in the shop that don't rattle, and this Tan Foglio rattles. But
did you shoot it much yet?
I haven't taken possession of it yet. I got to. I'll finish paying for it on Friday when I get paid for some of the stuff I sold, and then got to get it transferred and registered in my name. So, but what I did was I took all the STI parts that I bought for the 1911, took them off. Yeah, even the hammer, the sear, the disconnector, all that stuff that was STI on the Norinco is going to get dropped into the Tan Foglio. So I'll have the DTS safeties on there. Something else that the Tan Foglios are doing now, at least the 9mm, are coming with what looks to be G10 VZ style grips, which is really cool. It's just similar to what I have on my other 1911s.
Just for our listeners, what's G10?
G10 is the material that the grip is made out of, is it not?
Yeah, it's like a plastic material that's very it maintains its sharpness for a long time.
Right. So the listeners can't see this, but I'm holding up what will be Muffin's 1911, and there's a nice set of VZ grips on there that he got from Captain Andy. And yeah, it's a hard plastic, and they machine all the cuts into it to give the grip its texture. And like Adriel says, it doesn't wear down. It stays sharp and grippy. There's a lot of gription, and it maintains its gription for a long period of time. Yeah. So Tan Foglios are coming with those right out of the box now. So the price went up.
Good oil resistance, good water resistance. So if your guns get sweaty, or if your hands get sweaty, it's still really good. And it's a very, very stiff plastic, so it does not bend. It maintains its shape.
Definitely. So the price of the Witness went up by $100. But the value of those grips is $100. Go price a set of VZ grips for fun, or Techwear grips from Techwell, the GTO ones. I mean, they're all $100 to $140. So So the gun arrived. I drive out to the shop to look at it. I'm impressed with the fit and finish, and I'm going down the road, and I'm like, I should get one in 45, and then I'll do them both up for IPSC, and I'll have one in minor and one in major. So if I want to shoot a classic major match, I'll have one. If I want to shoot a classic minor match, I'll have one. And the 10 Foglio will act as a backup to my STI. So I don't need 6 1911s, which is kind of where we're at right now. 5. Yeah. So, well, I suppose that one is technically Muffins. Well, we're waiting for his license renewal to go through. It's in my name, and then I'll transfer it back to him. But I got a lot of 1911s. And so I'm going to sell off. Well, I already sold the one that I worked on and reblued and all that. That's gone. I sold that to an IPSC shooter from Hampton. And the other one that I had bought for Archie Perry, and then he decided he didn't want it, and I had it all tuned up and stuff. I'm going to put that one for sale too. So I don't really want to sell it though. But I don't need this many 1911s. I don't need a bunch of 1911s that I don't use. So I'll have basically I'm going to get down to 3 or 4, and they'll all kind of be for IPSC and at least get used. There's a whole pile of Safe Queens in here right now that I never get around using. So anyway, we ordered one in 45, and that'll be on layaway. You'll get paid before he gets paid for that one. Adriel, I haven't forgotten about you yet. I might as well throw myself under the bus because Kelly's not here to do it because, I haven't paid for the FN yet. So usually I can get one up front, but if I want a second one from Adriel, I've got to at least pay off the one that I already have, which I think is fair. I think it's fair.
That's how a drug dealer would do it, right?
Exactly. I can't front you another kilo until you pay off the first kilo and keep me coming back. Yeah, you know how to do it. Yeah. And then so Saturday, Denis was teaching a firearms education course. So I went and opened the shop and ran the shop by myself on Saturday for 3 hours, and I didn't have a single customer. So I used that time to work on Filthy's high power. Filthy's got a pretty unique high power. It was made in Canada for China, and it used to have a tangent sight on the back. Basically like a rifle sight.
Yeah, tangent sight. Yep.
Okay, good. So, and the back of the grip also has a slot for the stock and stuff. He had somebody work on this gun, and what they did was, and Adriel, I think I'll send you some pictures of this, and maybe you can post them in the show notes. Someone cut off the tangent sight, cut a dovetail for a regular rear sight, but then stippled the top of the slide, and it's really awful. It's a crime what they did. Now, I think I talked about this before. This was a guy who was, just learning to work on guns, and now he's a very accomplished gunsmith and does beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah. So I worked on that all Saturday, and that was a lot of fun. I'll send the before and after pictures. And then last night and tonight, just before the show, I was over at the local hockey arena getting ready for Promotion Plus, which is a trade and convention show. Chamber of Commerce show where local businesses put in booths. So the gun club has a booth there right next to the gunsmith. So I'll be working both of those booths off and on starting tomorrow night until Sunday at 5 and pumping the CCFR and the show and hopefully selling memberships and answering questions and arguing with aunties.
Argue with the pro gunners too.
I'll argue with anybody.
With both of them equally if you can.
Yep. Tell me, if your gun is better than my gun. Okay, 30-06 is better than 308. Convince me. How about you, Adriel? What have you been up to?
Let's see here. I actually had a buddy of mine say like, "Hey, I got some of that lever stuff, and my stuff's corrosive." And I said, "Really? Can you give me some cases?" So he got me some, and they're from a different factory. These ones are from factory 945, and they were made in 2003. And do I need a drum roll? No, they are corrosive. So there's the non-corrosive one. There's a corrosive one. I did this last night, and it's starting to turn brown already. So I guess that means that Lever is selling both corrosive and non-corrosive ammo as non-corrosive. Yeah, at least the 7.62x54. Which, I mean, they could have been sold the stuff as non-corrosive. Maybe the guys tested like the first crate and it was like, yeah, this stuff's non-corrosive. And they had like crates from this factory and another factory. And this factory, their QC may not have been as great, and they just kind of like, I don't know, mix the primers in or put the wrong ones in, or had like a ton of old primers that they kind of threw in. So yeah, definitely corrosive on there. I shot the local 3-gun match on Saturday. It was good. It was 42 shooters, really long day. we had some really good stages. Our long range. This is like our first year in 3 where we got to use our long range because he was shut down by the CFO for so long, and we got to shoot out to 200 to 300 meters, and that was really interesting. A lot of fun shooting out there. I made my hits out there because I went to the range before, and I could hit that stuff out to 500 with my AR. So that part wasn't as challenging, but it was interesting doing running, like hoofing it, and then trying to make your hits out at distance, because that's where you could really see your breathing, moving your scope all over the place, like especially on our stages where you had to shoot that at the end of the stage. So that was really cool. I had some jams on my AR-15, and I was like, why are these happening? I got home and I'm like cleaning my bolt, and it's like, man, this extractor is really stiff. It's really stiff. And funny enough, I've never cleaned. Trevor, have you ever cleaned your extractor out?
All the time. Which gun are you talking about? I remove
on an AR-15.
Yeah, honestly, I can say I've drifted a pin out once, removed it and cleaned it and stuff.
You don't have to drift the pin. The pin will just come out of your extractor. Brian, how often do you clean your extractor on your AR-15?
I have cleaned it.
Cleaning it and removing it to clean it's not the same thing. Like I clean it often. I've only removed one from a bolt once.
Yeah, like maybe probably when I clean the barrel, like maybe 500 rounds ish.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe 1,000. Not very. Honestly, it's probably more like when I think of it.
Yeah, I've not cleaned mine very often, and there was a ton of brass shavings under that thing.
See? So you think that's why you were getting those stoppages?
So I was having fail to feeds. The bolt wasn't going all the way into battery, and I don't know if that was the extractor trying to cam over the rim and just not making it. Because I had my first fail was a double feed, where I dropped the bolt on it, went to fire and noticed that the bolt was out of battery, ripped on it, and promptly gave myself a double feed because the other case was sitting in the chamber already. Yeah. So I think something was like, I want to say like the recoil spring or something like that. But like I've run that bolt since June last year, so it's not the bolt. It's not. I don't know what else it could be. Something else dragging. Maybe not enough oil could be. But I cleaned out the extractor claw and that area there, and there was a lot of gunk in there. A lot of gunk.
Yeah, you don't always have to just take it apart in order to clean it. You can just use a dental pick too, like just to get in underneath there. Just not a bad idea. Just if you're doing regular bolt maintenance.
Yeah, so the claws like that, I found like over here by the donut and the spring. There was a bunch of like really nasty stuff in there.
You gotta take that apart.
I was thinking maybe that was stopping it from going in and allowing it to cam over as easily. I don't know. Like that might be the issue. Maybe I just didn't oil it, but it was really nasty. And that is a super easy thing to clean because that little pin, all you need to do is push it on the extractor a little bit and poke it out. There's nothing holding that pin in. It comes out very easily. So
yeah, I usually use my firing pin to kind of start it, and then you can pull it out and just don't lose stuff. That's all.
Did you find reassembly a bit of a pain?
No, it's easy.
Really? Okay, because I got an extra power extractor spring here, and seems to me I tried to install it once, and man, I just couldn't get it compressed.
The extractor or the ejector?
Extractor.
Okay. Yeah, the extractor is easy.
Yeah, I've never had an issue. Talking about small
NEA bolt after all.
Yeah. One of the things, I don't know if the listeners, the watchers can see this. A valuable thing, a magnetic dish for small bits
I need one of those for work.
Well, yeah.
I use one
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
I've got two here somewhere.
Yeah, they're great just for chucking stuff in. Oh, I know where those parts are. They're in the bottom of the magnetic dish. So everybody should have that.
Princess Auto.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, this is totally Princess Auto. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you need stuff that you don't need high quality, go Princess Auto. They will have it. So
yeah, a parts dish with a magnet on it's fine. Anyways, that was the match. Couple of really interesting stage designs, some really cool stuff, and it was good. I got first in TAC Ops. I didn't get first overall. There was a guy out of Saskatchewan who Ryan, who's on a different level than the rest of us. Yeah, and came to play and beat us all at 5 of the 6 stages. Yeah, so but that's okay. Let's see. I ordered that CZ Shadow, I think on Thursday. Did I mention I bought it on Thursday?
Yeah, you did.
I think it was on Thursday. And Monday came and it's already here. So transfer and mailed and at my door already.
Nice. Yeah, I had a 24-hour, my second 24-hour transfer within a couple of weeks. So tell me all about it, man. You've had a Shadow 1 and now you've got the Shadow 2.
Yep.
And
it's very heavy. It's so heavy. It's the other thing that happened at the match. 2 people got disqualified by having their Shadow 2s jump out of their holsters. This is a very heavy gun, and trying to hang on to the poor trigger guard. Like, I feel really sorry for any holster trying to hang on to this big tank with a little bit of plastic. You definitely need to make sure that your holsters are really tight with these things.
Hell, you gotta and test it ahead of time. I got DQ'd from my last three gun match for the exact same reason. My Strike 1 came flopping out of my holster. And I just didn't set the tension correctly.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, like, but between temperatures, like the tension can change. So if it's cold one day or like super duper hot the next day, that might just cause the issue for you right there. So while you're in that safe area, it might not be a bad idea just to check the tension on your pistol holster.
And then remember, once you put a mag in, it's going to be even worse, and you can't put a mag in the safety area. So if you think it's tight, give it a little bit more to accommodate account for the magazine.
Oh, you're saying the extra weight from it?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Are there any holsters like the Safariland ALS that fit those pistols? Like something with like a mechanical release that you have to disengage as you're drawing the pistol?
Oh yeah. Okay. Now I don't know if I want to go that way. Like I had a mechanical release on my FNS holster, and I took it off. I never used it and never needed to use it. Never felt I needed to use it. I think with this guy, I'm just going to really crank it down tight, and taking this thing out of the holster is going to be an act of violence.
Good. Your draw should be of a violent movement done with purpose.
Yeah, not one of these like, I guess I'll pull it out. And I was like, get out of there. Let's get going.
Or draw your gun by the throat.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very heavy. I thought some of the Shadow 2s came with an extended safety, like in the box, but then I was reading online and some do and some don't. I think I want the extended safety, and then someone I posted that to
installed them. I installed the extended safeties on my section coordinator's gun. Super easy. And and then you like if you look at my Tanfoglio here, it has a extended safety on the strong hand side.
That's big.
And it acts as a thumb rest, as you can see.
Yeah.
So if you put the extended safety on your Shadow 2, it'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
And
the one that they include with it is like super, super skinny. There is not much there.
Well, it's not intended to be used, right?
Yeah, in IPSC production, you wouldn't even use that, right?
That's
you would put the hammer down and then just double action, single action.
Yep. And you should be doing the same thing in 3-gun. What's faster? Just pulling out the gun and shooting it, or pulling out the gun, disengaging the safety, and then shooting it?
Oh, but that
Oh,
double
stop.
action versus single action.
That
come
double,
on.
you're not
Come
talking about a revolver. You're talking about a Shadow 2, one of the nicest triggers in the world. You can make that first 5-pound shot. Stop it.
Yeah, for the money. Yeah.
Did you notice also that that has a steel guide rod where your Shadow had a plastic guide rod?
Well, my Shadow 1 was used, and I can't remember if it came with a.
If it had a steel, somebody installed it after the fact.
Yeah, I can't remember if it had one or not.
This one now has steel right out the box, adjustable rear sight right out the box, which you said you didn't care about. But for me, that's a huge thing.
I will never use that adjustable sight. I will shoot it as it came from the factory.
You're just that good. I will use the force to will
put that thing in there, and then you pull a trigger, and because it's a CZ Shadow 2, it'll go in the middle.
Well, okay. So, in fairness, the adjustable sight is for people with a bad flinch that need to correct it with a sight.
Yeah, you need to drift the sight way over to the right and way down low.
Adriel, not even kidding. I've seen that at SummerSlam when I shoot people's guns for chronograph, and all of a sudden, the bullet should have went in the middle and it was way off, and they're like, "Yeah, my sights are adjusted for my flinch." I literally just roll my eyes.
Well, I mean, some people will do that. Some people say that they're adjusting it for their flinch. Some people say like, "Oh no, I have it adjusted for me." But it's like, do you realize that you're flinching, and that's why they're going down there? It's not like your eye alignment along the sights are different than everyone else's. Exactly. It's Yep. And I went and picked up a couple of mags. Oh man, I love this is an expensive pistol. But it's really nice what they did with the mags with these things. They from the factory come with Mechgar mags. It's like an all metal body, plastic base plate, and that's it. You can just go buy these things for like $30-$35 kind of a thing. So the mags are extremely reasonable. My FNS mags were like 75, something like that, for an all metal plastic base plate magazine. These guys are 35. Love it. Love that they went with aftermarket.
That is what they should have used for the CZ Scorpion. For mags.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For the CZ Scorpion, they totally should have used these things.
Yeah, it's not hard.
They're really they're decent mags. They're all metal. Oh, yeah. They've got the 2 cutouts on both sides. The follower's really nice. The base plate itself is decently thick. I still wouldn't mind getting some aluminum ones. I saw some at the local shop here, but they're like $50 a pop. Too much.
Get brass.
You have to get brass. Not even aluminum's good enough. No. I talked to at the match, Spectre Ballistics sponsored it, and they gave away a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, "Hey, you want to make a bunch of money? Take a CZ mag, go make a bunch of base plates for this thing in aluminum or brass or something like that. Bring them in and sell them for like $20-$30, and you'll sell a gajillion of them to." Well, not a gajillion of them because there's not that many people in 3-gun, but you'll sell some of them.
Now, are the mags the same for the Shadow 1 and the 2, or did they do something weird to change them, or do you know?
Well, the Shadow 1 they use like the plastic bottom. I don't know if you can. I'm pretty sure you can use them interchangeably.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Normally, the Shadow 1 ones have the crappy plastic bottom, metal top for the 10-rounders.
Right.
And I don't like those. I prefer like a full metal body on the magazine because it makes it a little bit heavier. So it's going to be more apt to kind of shoot out of there when you hit the button.
And your spring is not as compressed, right? Because the spring is actually full length. Your magazine capacity is limited in a different fashion, so you're not trying to cram that 10th round in really hard. So yeah. I mean, it's a big, heavy gun, and it's got a fantastic trigger on it. The magazine release is really good. I really like the ergonomics on this one. With this, it's got a bit of a higher cut on the back there, and it's got a cut in a little bit more on the trigger guard here compared with the Shadow 1. So that kind of lets you get your hand a little bit higher on the gun, and that's been really nice. I just got the transfer notice for like the paper version in today. So once I get closer to it, I'll take this guy out to the range. Nice. I'm thinking with the popularity of the Tang Folios and the CZs for production class in IPSC, maybe they should just have like a CZ Tang Folio class. Just put them all, just shoot those, and then people with Glocks and other stuff can just shoot Glocks.
Well, if you're going to go there, you'd have to put like a weight limit on it or something like that. So like production guns, it's like, okay, guys, production guns since the 90s should have been like one of these polymer striker fired pistols, and that's the class, and this thing is something else.
Oh, you know what? Or they just make a polymer striker fired class. That's it.
Yeah.
It must be polymer, must be striker fired. Yeah.
That'd be an option.
Do something like that.
I don't know. I don't care. I don't shoot much IPSC. I just shoot 3-gun, and 3-gun, it's like as long as it doesn't have a comp or a red dot, who cares? So
yeah, exactly. No, it's they're really nice guns. Everyone I've ever heard of really likes them. I've shot a Shadow 1 and I thought it was great. It had some work done to it apparently, but wow, fantastically accurate pistol. Just really cool. So,
yeah. I wonder what kind of mods I should do first, because it's not like me to just leave a gun alone and just go shoot it.
No, you should modify it a bunch before you shoot it the first time.
I should Dremel something right away.
You shouldn't even dry fire it before you modify it.
That's so funny because Andy asked me the same thing. He said, your new Tanfoglio and 9mm, you're going to take it out and see how it runs first before you modify it? I'm like, no. I have no intention of running it in its current configuration. So why would I waste one round of ammo through it in its current configuration? Ripping all the junk parts out, putting all the STI parts in, and let's go. And then if it doesn't work, we'll make it work with these parts. I'm going to do is add one at a time thing.
Now we see that and we say that like for new shooters they do the same thing. They're like, "Oh, I've got this gun and I don't know anything, but I'm going to get it modified before I start shooting it." You guys saying that you're going to modify it before you shoot it. Well, you guys have been around pistols for a while. You've got some experience behind you. Yeah, if it's somebody who's newish, shoot the gun you got because it'll do better than you out of the box.
Oh, to be fair, like the Shadow 2 is going to do better than me out of the box.
Yeah,
just flat out, it's a better gun than I am a shooter.
There you go. And you're not making modifications because you feel you have to. You're making them because you want to, because it's a free country, and
money,
America.
And I am a Bubba, and this thing will know my Dremel.
Here's the thing:
feel its bite.
But I got to tell you something, Adriel, before you go full crazy on your gun. You guys know that one of the things I love most about firearms is working on them and customizing them and modifying them. Right? There's barely a gun in here that I have not modified, customized, furlaughtied in one way or another, except for this one. This is my Tanfoglio Limited Custom Extreme, and it's not had a single solitary thing done to it. I took it out of the box. I adjusted the over travel screw on the trigger, and now I just shoot it. It needs nothing. There's a new aftermarket spring. Yeah, that's super. I'm happy for that new aftermarket spring. The gun is fine the way it is. And guess what, Adriel? Your Shadow 2 is actually fine the way it is. Except for possibly a spring kit and possibly polishing some trigger surfaces.
Or just shooting it a lot and it'll polish itself.
Exactly. The only thing that you might want to consider doing to that is a lower recoil spring and a lower mainspring, and then making sure you always shoot federal primers to reduce
and then
your
a magwell, and then brass grips, and then
brass grips. I mean, you could, but
no, I don't want my handgun jumping out of my holster, and it's heavy enough.
Lorette had a stock 2 Tanfoglio stock 2 Australian length, and he installed the brass grips on them, and it weighed more than my 40. It was ridiculous. Those brass grips, after tax and shipping, were $340.
Oh my God!
Nope, don't want it that
for 2 slabs of brass.
No, you should buy a Streamlight and take the battery out and fill the cavity with lead and just strap that on the gun and.
Get one of those. I've got a Lee production pot. Just like heat it up and then get the stream light and put it underneath and just go, just fill it up like a soft serve ice cream. Break it off at the top. We're done.
Leave enough room that you can screw the battery cap back on at the end, so it looks right. You don't want what's this glob of lead at the back of your light? That's no good.
Oh, that'd be a ton of weight. No, I don't think I'll do that. I think the Shadow 2 as it is probably. You know, I didn't place bad even with my FNS. My Glock has been really nice to me, with just that better trigger and
want the Magwell.
And the Magwell's fantastic on that Glock.
Just mail it to me or tomorrow.
No, it's my turn.
Totally can.
It's my turn to buy an Adriel gun.
You can have the gun. I just want the Magwell.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we can make that happen.
Brian, you want a Glock or an XD in 45?
This is where you laugh. Insert laughter.
Oh, he's frozen.
I was because my brain locked up. And I can't even. I would rather have a high point in 40.
Wow. Wow.
Lots of XD lovers on this show. All right.
Honestly, I see so few XDs. I don't know. I think I've fired one once. I never see them. They're never around. Like they're the least...
It's a polymer striker fired pistol. They're fine. I have seen them. I have seen the firing pin stop in the channel from gunk and freezing on 2 guns. But other than that, they're the same as everything else out there.
Yeah.
Which is to say, like, I think there's something to be said about having a gun that's really popular. Like if you have a Glock and you want to modify it or do something to it, there's a lot of parts out there. You want to buy a mag for a Glock? It's $25. So I mean, there's something to be said about buying a gun that's really popular, because you get that aftermarket support for the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that completely.
Trevor, what kind of holster are you running with your CZ/Tanfoglio/ they're all the same?
They're not all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same.
The Tanfoglios and CZs don't use the same holster. Anyway, to answer your question, I started off using this for my Tanfoglio, and this is known as the Ghost Ultimate Holster, and it just covers the trigger guard and nothing else. The muzzle extends past the end of this. The sight is all open. When it's unlocked, you just need to stand still. Don't even try and breathe.
Yeah, that's a NASCAR. That's a racing holster.
Absolutely. So I've gone away from that, and now my 3-gun belt, my classic belt, and my standard belt all use this setup. So what we have here is a Sierra Speed C-Bax hanger, which uses the same attachment as a Blade Tech. And this is actually a Blade Tech Kydex holster. On my 3-gun belt, it's a prototype Highlander Tactical. And on my standard belt for that Tanfoglio, it's also one of these.
Do you
Blade Tech and
Highlander Tactical belt handle? Handy?
Yep. 1 sec.
Yeah, I want to see it. Because you know what? I am in the market for a holster.
So
strangely enough,
because I'm such a fan of these C-Bax hangers, the C-Bax hanger is the same hanger that they use on their NASCAR full-on race holster. I actually mailed the C-Bax hanger to Ryan and asked him to make me a race holster to fit that hanger, and it is for my Arsenal Strike 1.
His holsters are normally Blade Tech style connectors, though, right?
I can't say for sure. I thought they were more like a G code or something.
He does that G code in Safariland. Yeah, normally.
That's how the gun fits into it. So it's a single layer Kydex with 2 tension screws here, rubber grommets, so you can get her down good and tight. Open at the muzzle. Trigger guard is well covered, as you can see. If you had an optic on there, that would not be an issue.
Yeah.
So I'm after
the Kraken I just ordered from him
Yeah.
It's fairly open at the top, and I'm convinced that if and when I go to an optic, I will be able to adjust the holster to suit.
Does he do double layer kydex?
I don't think so. Like here's a Red Hill Tactical. That's a double layer. You can see how thick that is. This is his, I believe this is one of his pancakes. It's a Kraken, and that's a single layer.
Yeah,
Odin.
this is a solely
Odin.
Canadian dual layer, and it's thick. I kind of like the dual layer because it's very substantial. It does not flex or move or anything.
Yeah, I'm a fan of dual layer as well. This Red Hill Tactical would be my choice if Ryan didn't exist. Red Hill Tactical makes nice stuff. That's for the FN. And then this is an old LHS. And I don't have anything nice to say about them, so I'll put it back in the...
Why did you even show us? Like, why? Like,
what's that for?
Why?
What gun's that for?
That's an MMP holster.
Do you have an MMP?
I had an MMP.
You know what we should do is like add a section to the show of like, who wants to buy some stuff? And we just pull a bunch of stuff as like, what is this thing? I don't even have an FNS anymore. Oh, does anyone want to buy this?
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe on a future show.
Yeah. So
garage sale. We'll do a rummage sale episode.
I got this XD in 45. Anyone want it for like $100? No. Oh, damn it. Oh man, I have to try again next week.
Yeah. For $100, I'd take it if it was in 9.
You've got conditions on a $100 pistol. Come on.
I have standards.
I don't have conditions on a $100 pistol.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
All right. I don't know what topic we were on there. I think we were talking about the CZ Shadow, and we went on a little.
Yeah, you asked me what kind of holsters I was running for my pistols.
Yeah. All right.
A bit.
Let's keep moving on here. Upcoming events. Oh boy, 3-gun. Hey, I'm not ready for that. I should have, since I'm like lead hosting and I should know what's coming up. Valcartier Multigun is this weekend on April 28th. The Medicine Hat match will be on the 28th as well. Lethbridge 3-gun will be on the 29th. Getting into May here, PFI Canada will be running the Vancouver Island 3-gun Nation match on the May 5th. Northwest 3-gun will be running May 6th at the Morse Mountie Marksman Association. Say that 3 times fast. And then finally, Chaz 3-gun will be running on May the 12th. And Mighty Peace 3-gun will be running a match on May the 12th. And the Medicine Hat will also be running a match on May the 12th. Do you guys have any event updates that we need to hit on, or can we keep going here?
Just want to remind people that there's one spot open for the pistol class for the charity shoot. And so you can send me your name. I don't think anyone has. If I end up with an extra person because I can't keep track of my own stuff, then that'll be my problem, not yours. Also want to remind people that you can please send donations for the charity shoot if you're unable to attend to slamfireradio@gmail.com. And a reminder that this year's charity for the 8th annual Podcaster Network charity shoot is the Dalhousie Regional High School breakfast program, a program that feeds hungry school children and relies solely on donations from the public. So by all means, certainly we'd be more than happy to take your money. We'd be happier to take it from you in person and see your smiling face. But if you can't make the event, you can still contribute. I think that's it, Adriel. Everything else can wait till next week.
How many people are you at for the Alberta course?
I don't know.
Okay.
As far as I know, there are still spots.
I was talking to 2 guys who might come.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. I think
need to get them some information.
All right. So maybe next week I'll have some concrete numbers on everything. I'll do my homework.
Cool. News. We have a new show sponsor.
We do. So we announced last week without checking with Ryan that he was going to be our new sponsor, and he went for it.
That's called a presumptuous close, and it's a great sales tactic.
It sure is. So after a few days, Brian was like, "So, any news yet from Ryan?" So I sent Ryan a proposal, and he accepted it. So we are proud to announce that Highlander Tactical is our newest show sponsor, and he will be sponsoring the listener feedback portion of the show. He has provided the listeners of Slamfire Radio with a 10% off promo code, and that promo code is all caps Slamfire. I don't know if it's live yet, guys. I apologize. I just know that he's a sponsor. I know we have a code. I know the code is Slamfire, and I know it'll get you 10% off on your next holster purchase or anything you purchase over there at HighlanderTactical.com. So go on over and check it out. And if it's not live, hopefully it will be live soon. So stay tuned for more details on that. And then, of course, you know, we will be running his holsters on our belts from now on. So how awesome is that?
So I guess my choice is made for my holster.
It kind of is, yes.
Well, where
I
you
will be
get your
running that holster.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Probably be best if you use a sponsored holster. That would be good. Yeah.
So
if I get 10% off, I mean, I guess the choice is made for me. All right.
I think you probably get a little bit better than 10% off. The listeners will get the 10% off.
I just got to sweet talk them and like
you'll
send
get
them naughty photos of myself, and I'll get more.
Unsolicited pics are never good.
No.
Never.
Oh, really?
Yes, and when you send that picture out there, it's out there forever. You don't know who is showing their phone to people at gun shows going, that's Adriel.
Yeah, but how do you really know?
Well, maybe you were dumb enough to put your face in it. Huh?
That's an odd angle, but good point.
Big up.
All right.
I need some mental bleach. My mind's eye. Oh, that's so nasty.
All right, let's get on to new gun stuff. Have either of you guys take a peek at this first one?
No.
No?
That would mean that I prepared for the show.
Well, okay, so if you listen to Practical Pistol podcast a while through 2-3 ago, he was interviewing Maria, who's an IPSC shooter of complete dominance on the ladies circuit. She's completely dominant over there. Anyways, there is a CZ Shadow 2 that's like a special edition, her edition kind of a thing that Bullseye London has. It's got like some case hardened stuff on it. It's very highly polished, and it's got a couple of other things on there. It is a little bit pricier than a regular Shadow 2. They'll be retailing at $24.50.
Yeah, $24.50 for the absolute tricked out, peaked, high-end Shadow 2. And let's just head on over to see what a 10 Foglio
or a 2011. Check out what a 2011 costs, and all of a sudden it's like $24.50, and it looks really cool. I don't know. That's not so bad.
Exactly. A 2011 is, I don't know, $3,800.
Yeah, you're looking at like $4,000 plus. The STI DVC 3-gun model is like $4,500. It's 4+.
So right now I'm looking at an Australian length stock 2 extreme, $2,746.99.
Yep.
Yep.
So maybe it's not that highly priced, and it looks really neat.
It looks amazing, and it's only $2,400.
Only $2,400. All right, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I missed this or not. Wanstall's.
What about
Wanstall's brought in some Serbu RN50s. These are the Serbu 50 BMG that you kind of screw on the cap at the back. $1,500, $1,500 for a non-restricted 50 BMG. I want one. I might buy one.
$1,500 for a 50 BMG.
Yes.
And it's not like the
That's
Dominion Arms
cheap.
ones that shreds your arms and turns you into a hamburger.
Well, the other thing you have to do with that is you have to put a non-restricted lower on the Canada Ammo one, because the Canada Ammo one fits on an AR-15, whereas this one comes with its own thing.
This is horrible looking.
So it's cheap. I would say cheap and cheerful. You want a good-looking 50 BMG, you're going to pay like $3,000.
Is that what that Steyr one costs?
Oh, the HS50?
Yeah,
It's way up there.
fired the snot out of that a few times. I didn't realize it was an expensive gun.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this thing is horrible. It looks like it looks like it caught fire and someone put it out with a chain.
It's cheap and cheerful. There was a lot of really cheap 50 BMGs in like the 90s and 2000s, and then we got away from them. That Steyr HS50 is $4,200, and there's none in the country.
One of the guys in my club bought one at the local Canadian Tire.
Canadian Tire sells 50 BMG rifles?
Canadian Tire deals with North Silva. North Silva is the distributor.
Huh. Oh, Steyr has a repeating one, and that's a bolt action with a magazine that goes out the side. That one's $7,300.
Okay, now hold on a minute. This Serbu thing, it's got a screw-on breech cap. So you unscrew the breech cap, you put the cartridge in.
You break it open first. It break opens at the middle, and then you unscrew the thing. You pull it off. You put a round in there. You screw the thing back on. Put it up. Cock the hammer and fire. Cheap and cheerful.
Okay, it's cheap. I don't know if
Brian, you're with me. There's a lack of cheer, isn't there?
Yeah. There's lines. Like I am not the aesthetic snob that Trevor is. However, this looks a lot like a grease gun. And it operates much like a grease gun.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not spending $1,500 on a grease gun. No. Not for me.
Well, you could spend, let's see, I'm looking at another HS50 here. And this one is 9,000. Oh, well, this is another semi. It's 9,300.
Can we get that? I thought some of the semi 50s were banned.
Specifically the
Barrett,
yeah.
Because it's in a magazine somewhere.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
we've got that GM Lynx, the GM6 Lynx that Tactical Imports brings in, but those are like 15 grand at least.
Okay.
I vote. Yeah, 50 BMG rifles are expensive. They're not cheap, so the fact they're bringing them into Canada for $1,500 Canadian is very low.
Worries me. It may be another Dominion Arms bomb waiting to go off.
Yeah, I do not want to be.
No, there's less of a worry with this one. There's no bolt out of battery. You break the thing open, you put a round in there, you screw the cap on. I mean, you could fire it without the screw all the way on, maybe.
But you find out that it actually is made out of the body of an aluminum grease gun, and it blows apart. That's
possible too.
That's
possible. But anyway. Like Serbu is not a small company.
Yeah, no. I'm just honestly, I don't have much interest in a 50 myself. It's just not my kind of deal. If I really wanted to shoot 50 and I was, tight on money, sure. This would get you in the 50 game. Why not?
I would skip right past 50 and go for 338, but that's me.
338 what?
338's on the way to 50. It's not past 50.
I would skip sideways then. It's a better cartridge for long range precision.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not a 50.
No. The 50 BMG is great in a machine gun. That's what it was meant for. And then it's been employed as a precision long range cartridge in the meantime. So I think the first use was actually a 50 BMG with Carlos Hathcock had a scope welded on.
Welded one onto an M2 or something silly.
Yeah. Because they didn't have 338 Lapua at the time. So
because there was none. He wanted to shoot stuff very far away.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right. So anyway, okay. I won't be getting in line for this particular product.
You can't. They're already sold out. Now they're selling out the next one that's coming.
We just go on about it for 15 friggin' minutes.
This was mediocre podcasting.
We don't all have to strive for mediocrity. We need some furlough achievement.
Furlough achieving. Do you want to talk about this real glittery engraved CZ?
Okay. I'm calling it up here. Oh my. Oh, speaking of eye bleach. Okay. So this is from North Silva, CZ75 SP01 engraved for a bargain price of $7,500.
Yeah, the amount of like hand engraving this thing is high.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like there is a lot of effort into this.
What?
I'm not sure why, but there's lots of
Scrimshaw.
effort.
That's what this is called. This is called Scrimshaw. It's
It's
very popular in South America. They Scrimshaw horrible guns. That's gold inlay, kids, by the way.
Yeah.
Now
I am presenting it to everyone here.
Yeah, there you go. Is this more ostentatious than the Beretta PX4 Storm that is also all blinged out with gold inlay? And
it is because
a PX4 Storm is a garbage gun to inlay scroll work and whatever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They so Ian from Forgotten Weapons does a real good video series on Scrimshaw and the South Americans that do it, and man, they take some garbage guns and make them look like a garbage gun with Scrimshaw on it, but they really put a lot of effort into $38 guns. Like, it's crazy.
This looks like a lot of effort.
This is a lot of effort. How much do they want for this thing?
$7,500.
Yeesh.
Yep. A little pricey. Little pricey.
But, 3-gun legal. Good to go.
Yeah, this would not be production legal for IPSC.
No?
Nope.
Why not?
Because you're not allowed to change the finish on a production gun. They would have to pump out so many of these.
Fair enough.
Qualify to be on.
So you'd be in standard minor.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome.
You'd be in standard minor in style.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think you would have to have at least a fedora with like a feather.
Fine velour jacket. All right, let's keep going here.
All right.
It's this Lee thing.
Yeah. Well, have you guys seen the Lee Progressive Press?
Nope. They come out with a new model.
Lee Breech Progressive. Let me just take a real quick peek here. The auto Breech-Lock.
Huh. If I still hung out with the guys on the Reloading podcast, instead of being a pansy and too tired to record every Tuesday night, I'd know.
Here we go. So here's the auto Breech-Lock. It's using a couple of interesting things. So it's kind of using like their classic cast turret, but it's a progressive. It's very cheap at $150. This one works with their case feeder nicely. It'll do their either the manual powder thing on the top or the slider one that's a little bit more automatic. I don't like their priming system with this thing. It uses their
I don't like any Lee priming system.
No, Lee priming systems just aren't good. It uses that clicker thing that they've got where you like click in the primers one by one, which in my opinion is, not fantastic on a progressive. It's going to slow you down quite a bit. Yeah, there's the safety prime that you add in, but technically you could add their case feeder, which does work, and their bullet feeder, which I haven't tried yet. And then the crappy primer system that, takes a bunch of time and isn't automatic whatsoever.
I am typically not too impressed with bullet feeders, but John Schneiderbanger from the X-Metal Squad was posted a video earlier of his Dillon 650 with a bullet feeder, and he's got his thing adjusted perfectly. All he does is crank the handle, and he gets a bullet. Normally you crank the handle, you seat the bullet, crank the handle, you seat the bullet. Step up from the 550 where you seat a brass, you seat a bullet, you crank the handle, you manually rotate the shell plate, seat a brass, seat a bullet, crank the handle. This is slick. This might be something I look into.
I've never felt slowed down by having to seat a bullet. It just doesn't bother me.
Honestly, Brian, me either. But with all the Mark 7 stuff that's on the market now and converting 1050s and guys cranking out 2,400 rounds an hour on their Mark 7s, I'm like, So you're right. I've never felt slowed down. And the more you add to the press, the more you lose a feel for it. And you definitely have to check your ammo to make sure your primers are all seated correctly, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh,
but
yeah. That's the primer, the bullet feeder doesn't affect your priming. We will say it does not cause a problem for priming.
No, it doesn't. But if you go to a Mark 7, you definitely need to look into that. But anyway,
getting back to the Lee Progressive press, if listeners don't listen to the Paracast with our friend Tommy. Listen to him and his recent match experience with his ammo loaded on a Lee Progressive Press. It's not a cheap way to load ammo. If you end up with a, a magazine, like a bullet box full of squibs, it's not cool.
He's been struggling with that press since the Gun Dudes.
Was it a Loadmaster or a Pro 1000?
Who cares? It's
the Pro 1000 is total trash.
No, it's the step up one from that.
That's the Rangemaster, Loadmaster.
Yeah. Tommy really needs to save some money and buy himself something nice. He deserves it. That much he deserves. So
cool. All right. Why don't we head on to the main topic? And I'm just going to take a real quick break here, guys.
Yeah, me too.
All right. I'll just sit here by myself and see if there's any YouTube listeners, viewers watching. And we'll just chat amongst ourselves while you guys are gone. Jerks. All right. Let's see. I kid. Put that sucker online. S1 and S2 mags are interchangeable. My S2 came with the extended safety, but it also came with the factory CZ mags and plastic bottoms. Cool. I figured the Shadow mags, they wouldn't come up with a whole new gun or a whole new mag. Filthy's still watching. Hi, Phil. Okay, I'll take requests. Anything anybody wants to see while I'm waiting for the guys to get back? I don't know how to show an LOL, Greg. Or we could just, make fun of my co-hosts while they're gone. We can do that. Better hurry. I think when I come back, I'll stop the real one. Hi, Brian. We were just talking about you.
Awesome. Were you saying like the normal?
Well, I wasn't being nice.
So the normal.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool.
Yeah. When does your Mark 12 show up? My Mark 12 was supposed to be in my hands by the end of April, but we called Odell, and Odell has changed their story, and now Odell is saying it'll be in their hands by the end of April. So today's the 26th. So will they have it? Hopefully they'll have it next week, and I'll have it the week after. But it's kind of like my SLR. It'll be here when it gets here.
Who are you talking to anyway?
I'm answering. I had to do something while you guys were gone, so I started to engage the listeners who are watching us live, and I'm answering questions.
Oh, isn't that clever of you?
You should do that on the show, so we could
We should incorporate this into the show, like somewhere along the way. Say, okay, guys, if you're listening on the chat, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's time to get on the chat and ask us some questions.
Like listener feedback and be like
live
listener
version. Yeah, and there's a Patreon super chat option too, where you can ignore everyone except for the Patreonies. But that's me.
Yeah, doesn't feel right ignoring people.
No.
All right, let's get on to. Whoa, let's proper start here. Whew.
You all right?
Yeah.
You have a little stroke there?
No, I just wanted to put an air gap so I can find this part in the audio later when I'm hunting around.
Used to be quiet, so you can have like a gap in the audio.
Well, that's the idea, yeah.
So okay, so we should stop talking then.
Anytime.
All right, let's get on to listener feedback. Brian, why don't you take this first one from Adam?
Don't we have to announce that our listener feedback is sponsored by Highlander Tactical? Is that the professional way of doing this?
Is this starting today?
Yeah,
we announced it. Yes.
We announced it.
Yes. Yay! All right. Hey, Ryan.
Thank God you're here, Brian.
I'm like, all right. So that was Adriel. So if you get some correspondence from Adriel, maybe just wait on answering. Like he's maybe not the most.
By Highlander Tactical.
Nice.
Where all your holster needs, we'll put your gun in our stuff and it'll hold it. What's the tagline here, guys?
And for listeners, remember there's a promo code SLAMFIRE, all one word, when you order to get 10% off. which is, hey, 10% is 10%, right?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
used to be the tax. And then Trudeau.
I think the tax was higher before. Well, here, yeah. Anyway, whatever.
That's the same here.
Anyway, all right. So let's smoothly segue to the listener feedback, and I'll take the first one from Adam Grant. Hey guys and Kelly. Oh, Kelly's not here to listen. That's so rude of her to not listen. Yeah, it's anyway. I know the draw was some time ago, but I had to wait until pre-order 2 of the BCLs were done till I got my rifle. No big deal. Ryan from SFRC kept me posted while I waited. When I received the rifle, wow, was I ever surprised at the quality of it. This one is a keeper. Since receiving the pistol rifle and chassis, I have put a couple hundred rounds through the pistol along with the needed Apex spring kit and closer to 500 rounds for the BCL. I also attended a CQB clinic with Barney, aka Tactical Teacher, where I used the BCL and my wife used the SD9. My arms would have rather used my 7-pound AR, but my ego wanted to use the close to 11-pound BCL. Yeah, I'm okay, dude. My ego does not do that kind of stuff.
Long for a 2-day.
You are more of a man than me.
In fairness, most men are.
I was a little shocked to find out how much of the shooters did not listen to your podcast. Well, that's wrong. But after telling them I won the rifle and pistol from your podcast, I think I recruited a lot more listeners.
Yeah, great. Now a bunch of people showed up thinking they can get free stuff.
Well, they can get 10% off holsters.
Hey,
at Highlander Tactical using promo code Slamfire. So, it's kind of sure.
What they think they can get and what they can get are two different things. As long as they come listen, that's all.
And if
as long as they download the show, just download the show. We don't care if you listen, just download it. That's what's important. Yeah.
And if they become Patreonies, they could get something from the Calgary Shooting Center too, I believe.
Oh, this is true.
Or a patch in the mail.
Yeah. Yes, all that stuff that we'll cover later in the episode when it's the appropriate time, not in the middle of this email. I can't thank you guys and gal enough for the awesome win. And thank you to the sponsors who kicked in the awesome prizes. Is there any word on how Richard is doing? Any updates? Thanks again.
So then I forwarded that to Richard, just to let Richard know that, people were thinking about him. And Richard replied, I'll go ahead and take it, Adriel.
Yeah.
Richard says, hi, Adam. So happy to hear how awesome the prize pack is working out for you. It truly was an amazing thing Slamfire, the sponsors, and all of the participants came together for. I am still humbled by the community's compassion and generosity. As you remember, I was nearing the end of radiation treatments at the time of the draw. The radiation, on top of that surgery, have left some longer than expected effects. I have been on a liquid diet since the surgery in August. I have recently started taking tiny bites of more solid, or tiny bites, whatever, of solid foods and washing them down with water or milk, but it's still rather difficult. The reason for this is the stiffening of the esophagus from the radiation. Sorry, I can't say esophagus correctly. One of my friends pronounced the esophagus in university, and it's the thing that stuck in my head. Not appropriate. The rebuilt throat. What?
One of your friends, right?
The rebuilt throat and parts removed from my tongue also continue to heal and strengthen, but it's a long process. All in all, I'm still waking up each day, enjoying coffee, and watching my granddaughter grow and learn. Thanks for sharing your experience and progress with your 3-gun adventures. Thank you also for asking how I've been making out. All the best.
Fantastic.
Yep.
All right. Why don't we go on to David? David asks, hey, all. I have a reloading question. I know there is a reloading podcast, but I know some of you reload, so I'm fairly confident in your answers. Well, somewhat confident at least. Getting myself set up for reloading, and specifically 223 for semi-auto such as the AR. I've read that I should use small base dies for semi-auto and regular full length for bolt action. That said, I keep seeing comments on forums where some people say that it is a must, while others say they use full length for both semi-autos and bolt action with no issues. Which dies do you guys use and why? Is it that important to use small base dies? And then can rounds reloaded with the small base dies be used on a bolt action? Some comments mention that the small base dies are harder on the brass. True or not? I probably only shoot 10% of my total 223 rounds in my bolt action, and I'm trying to figure if it is important enough to track my reloads between the small base or regular dies. As always, love the show and look forward to the next episode. Dave J. P.S.
Oh, sorry.
I'll finish this one off.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, if you're looking to put on a Furlachi course in Alberta, Tabor is the place in southern Alberta in August. I can hook you guys up, mainly Matthew, with all the corn you guys can handle. I mean sacks of corn. We have corn stands on almost every street corner. Tabor has a corn fest party the last weekend of August every year. Tabor is well known for corn in Alberta.
I like my corn in the form of moonshine.
I like it distilled.
That's even distilled. There you go. Yeah. Nice.
Awesome. Okay, so let's pick this apart here. Full length versus
small base.
Small base. And he was talking about for bolt action as well. So for bolt action, you can use the brass in your bolt action rifle that's been sized for your chamber. Once it's okay, let me start over because that was really bad. You take some ammunition, you reload it, you fire it in your bolt action rifle. The brass will stretch to the shape of your chamber. And after that, you simply need to neck size it so that the bullet fits in the neck again correctly. And you can then shoot that brass in your bolt action rifle a bunch more times. It'll be more accurate than if you full length resize it every time, because you're going to get more consistent pressure because the brass is fire formed to your chamber. Eventually, it's going to start to stick, and you'll want to use a body die and bump the shoulder back some, and or possibly start that piece of brass over with a fresh full length resize. Yeah. As far as semi-autos go, I've had small base dies and regular full length resizing dies, and I've had no issue shooting brass that's been resized in a full length resizing die. So I haven't had any reliability issues. So I actually sold off my small base dies because I picked up a set of X dies, and the X dies prevent the brass from stretching. And because they prevent the brass from stretching, when you resize them, you eliminate the whole step of trimming. So that, to me, is more important than having a small base die. That being said, I believe RCBS now sells an X die, which is considered a small base die. The idea of the small base die is that it undersizes the brass. The idea of undersizing the brass is that it makes it feed reliably into semi-autos. But semi-autos have a pretty generous chamber anyway, because they feed themselves by the power of their own gas, not by you manually cycling a bolt or a pump. So I don't know. Brian, do you think small base dies are an answer to a problem that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I think they are. They don't actually, I don't think that they undersize the brass so much as they take them to the absolute minimum spec.
Okay.
Either way, but yeah, right. You're getting something that should chamber in anything. I've always heard that you needed small base dies. I think that started from people who made small base dies and wanted to sell small base dies.
Right. Yep.
So I load with a full length size die for my semi-autos. I don't have a problem as long as the die is set properly. If the die is set crappily and not fully sizing the brass, it's not going to work. I've proven that. So
I recommend a full length resizing die and a case gauge.
Yep. And barring a case gauge, especially with something like an AR, chamber empty brass and make sure it comes back out of the gun.
Yeah, take empty brass. And if you want to do it with live ammo, just take the upper off altogether and make sure that the lower is nowhere around if you're doing this in your house, and just plunk test your ammo into your chamber.
Don't have the bolt in it or anything like that, because stuff can happen.
Upper off altogether.
Now, as far as neck sizing for bolt guns, that's what I've always done. Just because I was trying to get that extra accuracy. Again, like Trevor said, once you fire brass in a chamber, it conforms to the size of that chamber. And then by just resizing the neck, you're then putting brass in that is going to more properly align with the chamber and the bore. So it's it in theory
it's
is
less
an
stress on the
actual,
brass. It's less
it's
stress
also,
as well. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Now I've always neck sized with a collet die, so it just squeezes the brass. It's not running a standard ball
Mandrel,
back
yeah.
up mandrel back up through the brass, which is what really causes a lot of the stretching anyway. So if but to answer your question, just use a full length sizing die and you can make it work. Some people swear by using full length dies for bolt actions too. They don't do full sizing on it. They set them back a little bit so it's a partial resize. And some people say that's the best way to go. But I've had good luck with Lee collet dies for accuracy too. So
same here, Brian. That's all I'm
Yeah.
using. I'm using a Lee collet die for my precision reloading, both 30-06 and 308.
Yeah. When they first came out with those Lee collet dies, some of them were like the mandrel was a little bit too large, and you would have to. I would just chuck it up in a drill and just sand it down a little bit, just so it would like squeeze down the neck a little bit more.
Yeah.
But my more recent ones that I've bought, I don't have to do that. They're just good from the factory.
Yeah. And then you can get into really fancy dies with bushings and all that stuff to really finely tune your neck tension and all that stuff. I've never gone there because I kind of got out of precision bolt action stuff before I got into that. So
yeah, that is a whole other thing too, where you can find out the size of the chamber and then neck size specifically to your gun.
But yeah, to just go back, and I do all my brass prep with a full length die on my Dillon 650. So all the sizing, all the trimming, all that stuff just done there. So
you got a trimmer head set up on your Dillon, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to processing a bunch of 223 now, and I'm looking forward to taking it out, firing it, and then running it through the X die and never having to trim again.
Yeah, I like not having to care where my brass goes when I shoot because I get mixed and matched with other stuff. So
yeah, and you just want to like fling it into the grass. Now, one of the things David's mentioned is he's going to use this in his AR and his bolt action 223. Do we have any advice in terms of 5.56 cases versus 223 cases?
No, it's no. I would just make sure you're using 223 data for 223 and 5.56 data for 5.56. That's what I would stick to. Off the top of my head, I think how it works is 5.56 would have more
power,
more powder, so more pressure, and it can be a problem to chamber a 5.56 cartridge in a 223 pressure wise, whether or not it's actually going to be a real problem.
Wise,
you also have a smaller internal case volume capacity in a 5.56 because the brass is thicker than 223. So
if you're using military brass,
yes, if you're using genuine 5.56 military brass, the internal case volume will be smaller. So you're going to want to reduce your powder charge because you create the same amount of pressure in a smaller place, or the same amount of gas in a smaller space. You're going to get higher pressure.
But you're going to work up loads anyway. So just because you're
never just start off with max load.
Don't start at max and go up. Never do that. That's always bad. So
well, you gotta see where the limit is. You gotta see where it blows up, and then back it off a little bit, and then buy a new gun. And then
their house, not at your house. Yeah, it's one of those idea things. Now, if you're going to neck size, I would separate your brass. If you're just going to full length size everything anyway, then don't worry about separating your brass between your bolt gun and your semi-auto.
Oh, I would. I would pick like whatever. I imagine he's got a couple of different styles. I would like find one style that's the nicest, that's like in the best condition, that is 223 maybe, and I would run that in my bolt gun, and then my like whatever else I just reload for the AR. Right?
You might get some better consistencies in powder charge and case volume, that sort of thing, if you're using all one head stamp.
So just for the bolt gun, presuming he's going to shoot more like accurate stuff with his bolt gun versus
yeah, why not do that? Because you can keep it separate. So but definitely if you're neck sizing one, you definitely have to keep that separate from your AR. Don't take your neck size brass that fits in your bolt gun and try and feed it in your AR. It will probably chamber, but like you've undone the benefits of the fire forming for the next sizing. So yeah,
Cool.
don't bother with that. All right, cool.
All right, Brian, do you want to take the next one from Colin?
Yes. From Colin, Adriel and Trevor have been discussing case gauges. I know of someone in Canada who sells some good case gauges. It will do 100 at a time and spaces them out just right to fit in the red and green cases for reloads. And he's got a link here.
I thought we mentioned Fast Toys on the air.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you weren't. I think you went online for Fast Toys while we were on the last episode.
Is Colin like the guy at Fast Toys?
Maybe. Maybe he is. That would be clever. Yes. And the gauges will size it so it fits in an MTM box. See,
but like I'm doing like ice cream pails of this stuff. The fact that it's an MTM box means nothing to me.
It means nothing to you, but some people live by having all their ammo in MTM boxes. I don't understand it, but some people just love it.
Buckets.
I never used to, but I used to just throw the loose rounds in the ammo bag. Now, nope. I put it into I totally switched.
A question. Okay. Why, Trevor? What better? And it's a legit question. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, why do you feel it's better?
One, I don't know if I feel it's better, but one of the benefits is I know exactly how many rounds I used in a match now. Because I come home and I can look at the case, go, okay, this one has 40 rounds out of it, and these two are empty. So I shot 240 rounds today.
I use an ice cream scoop, and I scoop the bullets, and I put them in my
like sprinkles
container.
That's how I load my cases of powder. Use an ice cream scoop.
I thought you're just supposed to take the case and just scoop it in the powder and strike off the top with a card.
Oh, that would be less messy. I should try that. Thank you for the tip. Right? That's right. For sure. All right. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, Trevor, I think knowing how much ammo I used, it's kind of like keeping the receipt. At the liquor store. I don't want to know. No. No, I can see that. It does make it easy to keep track of stuff. That's sensible. And I'm really anal about round counts on my rifle barrels. So yeah, I do try and do that kind of thing too. So
I've got like gradations on my ice cream pails. That's like, here's a 500 rounds, here's 1,000 rounds, here's 1,500 rounds, but like that's as far as I go.
So you have graduated pails for ammo.
Yeah, I have a graduated pail.
That's its own level of nerdy anal retentiveness. Like, well done.
Well, that's like, do I need like 500? It's like, yeah, this is the graduated pail, and just pour 500 rounds into another pail.
Actually, you know what? I do it. I know that I can fit 100 rounds of 5.56 in a 12 gauge box, or 120 if I pack it the right way, and I can fit about 200 rounds of 9mm in a 12 gauge box. That's my measure.
Yeah, that's your.
So I guess we all have our system. Trevor's all fancy with the MTM boxes. We're we're doing it different, probably wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll take this next one
because Trevor doesn't seem to be paying attention.
No, I got
it. Not at
all. From Justin, what was the name of the earmuffs that you guys compared to motorboating boobs? I am in the market for a nice pair. Which kind?
MSA Sordrin.
No, is he in the market for a nice pair of?
Oh, stop it! No.
MSA Sordins, right? With the gel cups on them.
I think. Yeah. Brian's reaching
optional gel cups.
This is right here. The MSA Supreme X Pro, and the other name of the brand is not on here, and it sounds funny. I can't pronounce it right. So, yeah, they're awesome. I love them. So good.
There you go. If you want to email the show, send your email over to slamfireradio@gmail.com. We don't have any iTunes reviews. If you want to review us on iTunes or one of the other podcasting apps you have, just head on over and give us a review, and we should find it, and we'll probably read your review on the air. Shoutouts. Trevor?
Do I have any? No. Okay.
No? Okay. Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to give one to the guys over at CDN Gunworks. They got their hands on an SLR receiver set, and the gun porn on Instagram has just been coming hot and heavy. And I'm particularly fond of their build because they have the same Maple Ridge handguard on their build that I'm putting on my build. And I got to tell you, it suits it. It looks fantastic.
Sweet. Yeah, I've noticed that Maccabee sent out some tester units to a couple different places, so there's definitely a lot of pictures going up with the SLR builds.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm
very cool.
Just chomping at the bit to get mine.
Brian, do you have any shout-outs?
I got nothing.
All right.
No.
I've got one to CTC Supplies for getting my gun transferred and mailed to me in 2 business days, maybe 3. Thursday, Friday. Got here Monday. I don't know what time it got here. My wife, I just showed up and was like, "Oh, there's a box. Huh. I wonder what that is. Oh, it's my gun. What the heck?" That was super quick. And the other one is to Salish, and that's for the cases that he sent over. So now I got to make a video showing how these ones are corrosive and mine aren't, even though they're from the same year from China. So
it's going to be super interesting.
Not really. It's just like, this 762x54 is corrosive. This stuff's not. Don't buy this one. And if you do, and you accidentally get it, ask for a refund or ask for some money off or something, because you were sold something that's not the right goods.
I'm wondering if the retailers are getting hosed because the possibly very sketchy source of the stuff in Russia maybe is lying to them.
Well, this is China, and that is very strongly a possibility. But that's the retailer's problem kind of thing, right?
Mm.
It's like the factory number is usually stamped on the outside of the case. So if you're like, "Hey, are you getting all this non-restricted stuff? Okay, we tested the stuff from this one. Hey, we're getting a bunch of stuff that's from this other factory. Maybe we should test this too, or it's a different year or something like that, right?"
Mm.
We're getting reports from users that are saying like, "Hey, this stuff is corrosive. My gun rusted. What the heck?" Maybe you might test it and check it out.
Yeah, I think there's also a certain level of, well, I guess, are you paying more for the non-corrosive?
Not really. Yeah. So if they just sold it as corrosive, it would be fine. If they sold it as corrosive and it turned out to be not, or if they sold it and they're like, maybe it's non-corrosive, maybe it's corrosive, you find out. Luck of the draw. I think that would be fine because the prices are fine for corrosive.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to assume it's corrosive and just kind of deal with it.
Exactly.
Exactly. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yep.
Accept the outcome.
Cool. All right. Patreon supporters. We have 92 and we got some bings. That's another Patreon supporters email.
That's Dave bugging me. Oh, okay, wrong
Dave. Is Dave a Patreon?
Well, actually, Dan was sending us Facebook messages during the show just to see if he would actually bait me into answering. Is
Dan a Facebook? Not a Facebook. Patreon. Is he a Patreon?
I'm not sure if Dan is or not. He should be. He bothers us.
He's not allowed to send Facebook messages while we're on the show.
Yeah, Patreon is only Dan. Oh my God, we got to do a Patreon next.
Yeah.
Oh,
let's keep going. We're almost done. New Patreon supporters.
I'm so over Charles it. You have no idea, really.
Let's get through this part,
please.
All right. New Patreons. Charles P for 223. I think I met Charles over the weekend. Alex P at 223 and Bear S at 303. Patreonies, make sure that you email in your address and I'll pop a patch and a sticker in the mail for you. And the t-shirts are they redesigned them. The design looks better. I think I might just order them. For sure.
Striving for mediocrity.
I'm not in love with them, but yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So I might just order them. If you want to be a Patreon supporter of us, head over to slamfireradio.com and there's a link over there, or go to patreon.com/slamfireradio. Please join one or more of our National Firearms Association, like the CCFR or the CSSA. Check us out on Gun Owners of Canada. Head on over to our Facebook group and like us and message us during the show and hear the bings on the air. And we'll do all sorts of fun stuff. Good night, everyone.